Hello, welcome to the Viewpoint. I am Mamadou Mboj. By way of introducing my guest today, I'll give you a quote from a newspaper article in Britain about my guest today. He has been taking the acting world by storm since he made his on-screen debut more than 15 years ago. He has this type of skill that is impossible not to notice. End of quote. My guest gained such international reputation for his roles in numerous films, television dramas and theatre in the UK, the US, even in Nigeria, appearing along stars such as Idris Elba, Tendiwe Newton, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Jeremy Irons, Helen Mirren, the list goes on. And here I continue the quote, no matter what kind of roles he's playing, he always makes it work unforgettably. Perhaps unsurprisingly then in 2017, he was BAFTA nominated. Yeah, BAFTA meaning the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. It is absolutely my pleasure to welcome in our studio Mr. Babu Sise.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mboj. I appreciate this.
Absolutely.
That's an introduction.
Yes, I'm really very chuffed right now sitting next to you. I have to say this. But I wonder, where do you get most recognized?
Most recognized?
Yeah, Gambia. Oh, England, I wonder. Have you ever noticed?
I would say it's Gambia, actually, which is a wonderful support to me because Gambians clearly care about my work. I think for many years, nobody ever recognized me in Gambia. I came here for anonymity, in a way. I mean, I came here to see my family and this is my home, but nobody ever recognized me. But now, because of Into the Badlands, I get recognized a lot.
That's it. We were just talking about that before we came on set. Yes, I was also quite surprised because once I had decided that I was going to interview you, so I went around asking people, do you know Babu Sise? And each time they will say, Into the Badlands. I said, yes, actually you do.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that was a fantastic bit. And actually one of them said to me, when I said I was going to have you as a guest, he said, can he speak Wolof?
Of course I can speak Wolof.
That's it. Let's get into that. You were born in Britain.
That's correct.
But you came over when you were 10 months?
10 months old,
so,
roughly, yeah.
And until what, 6 or 7?
6 years old, roughly. Probably just after 6, my dad got a job in Togo at the ECOWAS Fund. And because of that, we moved as a family to Togo.
Absolutely.
But, you know, in the household, we spoke Wolof growing up. I mean, I can't say that my Wolof is the very best in the world because there's some sayings that I don't quite get, but I speak fluently.
Absolutely. So now, this is it. I think you are a celebrity now, appearing in so many movies, along with so many people. I have to ask this. I think I once read John Updike write something like, celebrity is a mask that eats into the face. Do you face that? Has it?
Yeah, I agree.
How
definitely.
do you live?
That's a very good quote. I've never eats into the face, so in a way it has a negative connotation.
Yes.
It does something to you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's strange, even when you were giving the introduction, there's a part of me that disassociates from it. I have to separate myself from it because there's some people who see me and they then assume I'm something that I'm not. You know, at the end of the day, I just enjoy acting and love doing it when I can. Sometimes I'm so tired of it because it is also hard work that it isn't everything to me, you know. My family matter to me. All the other things in the world, like, you know, happiness, health, those sorts of things. So yeah, celebrity is an interesting one. I know a lot of people want it and they want to taste it. Be my guest. Have a try.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a bit about the period that you spent in Gambia. Where did you live? The schools you went to, and that sort of thing.
I went to Mrs. Ndau's when I was very young. I remember having my hands beaten for stealing someone's butter when I was very young. That I haven't forgotten. That's one of the memories that sticks with me. And apparently one day after school, I told my cousin I know the way home, and we left. We didn't wait to be picked up or anything like that. Everyone panicked until we finally turned up at my dad's office. So I did know the way, actually, as it happens. After Mrs. Ndau, we got into Marina International School. And I think I only spent a couple of years there before we moved. But we did come back again in '93. There was a war in Togo. So it got a little bit interesting there, a bit hot. And my dad thought it's time to get his family out. So we moved back here to Gambia. And I was here from age 14 to 16, which are very formative years to be in a country. I think it made a big difference. I was able to manage on the streets a bit better.
I said, I've heard you in one interview saying that you're Ndongo. You became a Ndongo.
Exactly, that's
so
it.
what sort of Ndongo stuff were you up to?
Not much. I don't want to put myself in a tough position. One thing I used to do was steal my mom's car. I used to climb out, steal it, and go for a drive. But that's foolhardy. Do not do that. If any kids are watching, that is a bad idea. But yeah, things like that, you know, wanting to stay out late, wanting to go out and actually see the world, not just be a student. Yeah, so things like that.
Absolutely. And then afterwards, you went back to Britain for university.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Around the time you were 18. When you got there, I like asking this, did you have a culture shock? What was it? Was it a culture shock? What?
Wow, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. I think shock is an understatement.
Okay, all right.
It was a real shock to my system. I mean, there was a number of things. First of all, I got there August, September time. I mean, look, I did go to America first. I went to England, spent 3 weeks, and then I went to the States to be with my older brother because I wasn't going to uni straight away. I was taking a gap year. So I went and just spent time with my older brother in New York, went and saw aunties and uncles, you know, just whichever way I could go, sleep on someone's floor, eat some food. That's what I did. But when I came back to England, it was a culture shock. You know, it was cold. The people are different in terms of how they interact with each other. And there's, you know, slang in the language that I hadn't learned. What I learned was English. What I found there was people were using words that I didn't really understand how to use it, like mate and so on and so forth. There's also elements of the culture that I just wasn't used to at all, you know. So it was a bit of a culture shock. But the biggest shock was how alone you are when you first leave home. You know, mom and dad, you have all that comfort, you're not really thinking about it, and all of a sudden it's like, right, now you've got to think about a lot of things for yourself. That was a bit of a shock for me.
That's it.
Big shock.
And I also imagine suddenly you have to confront notions like black. Maybe
Yeah.
when you left you were a Wolof or whatever,
Yeah.
but suddenly black becomes really something that you have to deal with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think actually my first confrontation with it was in the States. One morning my aunt sent me to go and get milk very, very early in the morning. So I got out. I wasn't happy because, you know, I'm 18. Why am I being woken up that early? And it's for the kids. So I wasn't smiling when I went into this deli. And the moment I walked in, the people at the front of the queue, they immediately stepped back. All of them. And I realized in that moment that the reason they were stepping back was because I was an angry-looking young black man. And I thought, okay. I walked around the whole shop when I picked up the milk, and I made a point of going to the back of the queue. But, you know, the world is small. As I approached the front of the queue, the deli man knows me. And he's Lebanese but speaks Wolof. So he said to me in Wolof, they're scared of you. You know, just those sort of little things. That's the kind of thing. But yeah, and in the UK as well, I think one of the advantages you get growing up in, what I got growing up in West Africa is I never really had a chip on my shoulder about my blackness. Like I was black last. I never thought of myself as black, you know. Even you mentioned Wolof earlier. I never really thought of myself as Wolof either. Do you see what I'm saying? I was very much Babu. Yes. Babukar, you know, that's it. And so when I got there, identity was definitely something I had to confront a little bit. And, you know, there's many different people from all over the world there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it never really grabbed me. I felt like an outsider. I felt like I had to adapt. And it took a while. And about a year in, I started to pick up certain things, especially when I went to uni.
That's it. But you already had an embedding.
Yes.
Which sort of
And also, because I didn't go straight to uni, I went and worked. I had to do certain things. You get into the grind, the hustle. So you connect to people differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but I wonder, until then, were there any telltale signs that you could act? Because I remember in one of your interviews, you said once you had decided that you wanted to become an actor, your aunt also said to you, I could tell from the age when you were 5, 4 or
Yeah.
5. I wonder what were the telltale signs
It's
of
my
an
auntie.
actor in the making.
Yeah, it's my auntie James Sen. I actually was visiting Gambia once. This is after I'd become an actor, and I went to her house just to say bye, and then that's when she told me. She said, even from back then, the way that you behave. And I was like, quite a revelation to me. And since then, I've had other cousins who remember, like, I'd watch cartoons and then I'd come back and I'd describe the cartoons to them, So I've always had that desire. But I think it was in my school in Togo. One of the things that the school did, which I encourage, and I hope a lot of Gambian schools do, and I'll find out in time, is that we did a lot of school plays and assemblies. So every single Friday there was a performance at the front, small ones. And then towards the end of the term, we'd have bigger ones that other people were involved in. So as your class gets an opportunity, but not only that, you also get an opportunity if you want to take drama more seriously. And so, the British School of Lomé in Togo was where it started for me properly. And by the time I hit 16, when I went back, I met a teacher there, Kevin Glass from Newcastle, who was the man who basically said to me, look, you should consider doing this for a living. I thought it was ridiculous, of course, how do you earn a living acting? But it stuck with me. And at 18, before I went to uni, where I was staying in King's Cross, there's a little drama school nearby, the Poor School. I went and stood outside it and had a good look. And I called him up and said, look, do you think I should go now? And he said, follow your heart. But, instead I followed my head. I went to uni first.
Absolutely. It sort of seems like you chickened out a bit.
I chickened out.
100%. Was it when you went into medicine, into the sciences? You said you like the sciences, you studied microbiology, became an accountant before you went into acting.
That's correct.
Just take us through that short journey from microbiology, accounting, and then...
As a kid, it was always about becoming a doctor. That was the plan. And I loved science and was good at it. So it was always that. And then when I got to England, because of the fees and all the complications and everything else, I decided, look, let me take 3 years, do microbiology, do a conversion course, and then do my 4 years and become a doctor. And by the time I finished microbiology, though, I knew that medicine wasn't for me. So I followed in my dad's footsteps. He's an accountant, Aliou BMCC, and I thought, okay, let me go down that path. And I did that for a year and a bit, and just knew that it wasn't really for me. And it was just a phone call. I think I've told this story so many times, but it's now, I've said it so many times that it doesn't feel...
Was it you were getting pulled from another direction, or that the work of accounting, what was it?
No, I had a couple of questions pop into my head when I was accounting.
All right.
So imagine I've gone to uni, all that hard work, and then you're hired by one of the best companies in the world, Deloitte.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, this is it. This is what we're all working for, to get to Deloitte. And I'm sat there at my desk with my stuff thinking, is this it? Because I wasn't enjoying it. So it really made me question whether I was following something in my heart. And I thought, is this why I went to all those years of school, passed all those exams, to sit here and do work that isn't necessarily challenging? Now, it's not the same. My dad was doing very interesting developmental work around the world at the UN and so on and so forth. What I was doing was looking at local borough councils in the UK. And, to be blunt, it was dull. The UK can be dull anyway, but that was worse for me, And I remember sitting there one day looking at everybody there thinking, wow, is it these people that colonized Africa? Because of the amount of effort that was being put into the work, I was really shocked and surprised. So I started to pull away from it anyway. And so maybe on some level, and it's good you asked me this, there was something in my brain that was looking for a way out, but I couldn't find one. It seemed like I'd worked, I was on this. They promised you, if you work to this level, you become a manager. Then you become a director, and, D1 to D7, all those numbers, and then you become a partner. And at that point, you can build a pool in your house.
Yes.
Great. So that was the promise in my head. And I sort of thought, well, okay, I was good at the job. I did okay enough. I was a hard worker. But it just took one phone call to trigger the whole idea of acting. My cousin mentioned drama school. And the moment he said the words drama and school together, it just almost brought back a memory, a dream. And that same day I went, sat down, printed, applied, wrote my checks. You know, you had to pay £30 to audition. And I sent 4 applications. And that was it. Went home and said, yeah, I'm off to drama school.
Yes, and your parents, can you imagine? I know Gambian parents.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I know. I mean, and at that time, you know, because of the job, I managed to get myself a small flat in England. There was a few things that were working. But I just knew in here that it wasn't right. And what I was, in effect, going to do was give everything up in order to go and act. But there was just no choice, really. So what I did is I auditioned, I did everything, and I did it quietly. I waited until, because the chances of getting into drama school is so low. I think it's something like 30 places for every 900 applicants. So it's so low that 18 places for every 900 applicants. And I just thought, well, I'm not going to get in. So let me find out first. And I did. So once I did, then it was time for the phone call.
That's it. And you went to Oxford Drama School.
Oxford School of
Wonderful
Drama.
city. I love that city as well.
It's a good city. Really good city. I love Oxford.
That's it. So all of that done, now you've trained
Yep.
as an actor.
Yeah.
The first professional role. How did it come about?
The important thing to understand is, as an actor, when you train and you graduate, you need an agent. I say you need an agent. It helps to have an agent. It helps infinitely to have an agent. But you can also survive without one. I didn't get one. So I was back in my bedsit, lying on my single bed, thinking about my life, you know. And then after a few weeks, I think I applied back to Deloitte to work as a temp. And then I got a call from the principal of my school saying they're looking for someone to do some voiceover work in a local company. And I said, great. That was my first ever professional gig. And I went, it was half a day. I sat there, recorded what they'd written. You understand this, you know how it works. And that was it. And then I'd auditioned for a few things. One of them came to fruition. It was to tour schools, and we'd perform. We'd get to the school at 6 a.m. and we'd perform these shows. And it's just to educate the kids on various different things, but we'd make it very big performances, you know, and so on and so forth. And in a way as well, I'd come back and perform at councils. But those were just, they call it touring in education, which, you know, would be great in Gambia. I know a couple of people actually do something similar. But yeah, so that's what I did. That was it. I was a jobbing actor.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, I wonder, because before you, really, the other sort of like stellar, if I can call it, the actors from Gambia, one typically thinks of Louis Mahoney, Johnny Secker. Yep. I wonder if you ever met Louis Mahoney. He died recently.
Of course, yes.
You
very
ever worked
tragic,
with him?
Very tragic.
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to work with him properly, but I have met him many, many times, as in terms of like out in the circuit. And it's always a pleasure. You know, these are the people who trailblazed, doing it at a time when, you know, who else was doing it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's it. So we go to your, what was it? Was it was it a film you made, or was it a television drama or theater? you did all.
My first, I'd say, job that was like, got me any recognition was a theater job. And it was a production of Macbeth. And I played Malcolm, you know, the king's son, the king that's murdered. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. You know, it's Shakespeare, and at drama school they taught us how to speak Shakespeare, because it's almost a language all on its own. It's not really like English. It is, but not quite. You know, so that was a really good experience for me. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and it was during that show that I got seen by a proper agent. The agent that was representing one of the actresses saw me and signed me on. And then during that show as well, a casting director, again, very important role in our industry, they're the people who find all the actors, was watching the show for a film that she was casting at the time called Severance. She took one look at me and said, that's the guy who will come in and play our Billy. And so she went and told the director. They brought me in for some auditions. The director said when I walked in, he looked at me, I thought, this guy's an accountant. He's not an actor. So he didn't want to cast me. He just let me walk out and forgot about me. And it was later when he got home that him and his girlfriend were watching back the tapes that he saw me and went, okay, let's bring him in again. And so that little 5-week period is where I did my first play and also got an opportunity to do my first film.
Yes, absolutely. When you said you played Malcolm, I keep wondering how do you have a ritual or a way of getting into character? I've always found acting quite interesting.
Yeah.
One has to get into character.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you?
It's changed so much over the years. You know, at drama school, what they train you to do is to question the character. So, you know, I look at Malcolm. His dad is the King of Scotland. He's the next in line. He's got a little brother. But he's not one of the heroes. The heroes are the Macbeths and the Banquos who have gone to war and protected the country. That's his position. So he's not quite there yet. He's not a full man. He's not there yet. And I wonder what that's like. So is there any intimidation? Does he wish he was stronger? You ask yourself these little questions, and then you decide. I can make him a very confident person, or I can make him slightly more deferential. Those are the sorts of things that you look for. And then when his father's murdered, and he knows that him and his brother's life are in danger, I try to, you try to visualize what that's like. Like, really, what is it like? Look, I won't lie to you. It's not easy. A lot of actors I know will avoid that because it's exposing, it's hard work, and it's not actually easy to attain. But ultimately, at drama school, we were trained to go for that. And beyond drama school as well, in my own work, I just find that's much more interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
To dig out and ask questions.
I've heard you somewhere say that compared to drama school, microbiology was a walk in the park.
And it wasn't an easy subject, but yeah, it was a walk in the park.
So you have to interpret a character, is it?
You do, but in order to interpret the character, you're going to have to use yourself. So that's the hardest part of the work, is you have to keep self-reflecting. You have to go in to find out which part of you is jealous. Because if you're playing a jealous character, in order to do any justice to it, you have to understand where that jealousy comes from. So then you start looking at areas in your life where maybe there is jealousy, things that you don't want to admit even that you have, right? Aggression, whether actually sometimes you're very vulnerable, somebody who is scared and worried. You think, well, what am I scared of? Me, in my case, it's dogs. I'm not a big fan of dogs. So you might then think, right, there we go. So you might then ask yourself, okay, what's that feel like? And if I'm in a situation with somebody who's scary, how can I bring that to the table? You really have to dig into your own persona. That's hard.
That's it. I've heard somebody once remark that in acting, as it were, to know is to feel.
Yeah.
Is it so? You have to feel it. Is it?
You have to. Yes. You have to. But it's not always the case. Sometimes you're in the middle of a performance and you feel nothing.
Wow, imagine
especially on stage. You're doing 40, 50, 100 performances of it. On the 40th one, you might have nothing left.
That's it. So, but what's the energy? What's the fuel? I wonder.
We have little things that we use, you know, to try and fuel you. Sometimes just hearing the audience. For me, it's enough. A lot of actors, when we're backstage, they avoid looking at the audience. I'm the one who creeps behind the thing, and I open the curtain and look through. As I see them, it fuels me. Instead of scares me, which it does most people, it fuels me. It makes me want to get out onto the stage, you know. I don't know why. I don't know what that's about, but yeah.
Absolutely. But what determines which roles to take or not? Have you ever been given a role and then you rejected it? I wonder.
Yeah, actually, in fact, that's my life most of the time. At a very early age, at a very early stage in my career, I learned, maybe by chance, maybe it's my Gambian upbringing, I don't know, that, you know, look, you don't have to take something that you don't want to take. You don't have to. So around the time that I was offered a job at the RSC, the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I said no. I turned them down. And a lot of my friends were very upset with me. It was 14 months of straight work, which would have been amazing. But I just felt I wouldn't be happy in Stratford for that amount of time playing those roles. I wanted better roles. And once I realized that that wasn't the case, I said no. And I've kind of kept that throughout my career. I've got to the point where obviously I'm desperate. Where if you're desperate, even then I push it right to the limit, you know. And I have the support of my wife, and she's sort of as crazy as I am. So in the end, even if we're beginning to run out of cash, we might still go, no, let's just wait for the right thing to come along. But it's a gamble. I can sit there and look at a role and think this is the best thing in the world, and then turn up on set or on stage, and the team you're with doesn't work right. The other actors you're working with, you don't gel. You know, you suddenly miss a few important beats and you don't really perform, and then it turns out to be something that you didn't expect. Or you look at a role, you think, this would be a walk in the park, I'll just go have a bit of fun and leave, and it becomes one of the most important roles you've ever played, you know? You don't know. Badlands, Into the Badlands, I took as just kicking people around for a bit. And then you get there, now it's a very important part, actually, of my identity. Because in Africa, it is how I'm recognized. And it's important to me for the work that I want to do here, you know, so yeah.
Absolutely. Out of all the work you've done really many. We can't go into all of them. But which ones, can we put it this way, your favorite? Which ones are sort of like defining in your career, in your personality?
Yeah, I mean, that first job, Macbeth, was defining. It's my first professional on-stage job with an audience, paying audience. That really affected my view of myself. And enough positive things were said to give me courage to carry on. There was another play I did with the same director a couple of years later called The Overwhelming, which an American writer wrote about the Rwandan genocide. And, you know, the opportunity to play an African play, but also the story was just so profound. Like, when I was reading all the research and going, it just got into me a lot. And that play was important. Actually, I got a lot of things in my life from that play. It's how I met my wife. It's how, it's how I made some of my best friends to this day. You know, and that was an important moment. Then I did, in TV, I did Our Love Boy, Damilola Our Love Boy. There's a theme here because Macbeth was set in Africa. The Overwhelming was Africa. Our Love Boy was, again, Nigeria, Africa. That was a very important one. That's the one I got nominated for the BAFTA for, but that's by the by.
Particularly with that Damilola one, about the 10-year-old Nigerian boy, wasn't it, who was killed in Peckham, South London back in 2000. We were living there. One of the most high-profile murder cases in recent Britain.
Very high-profile.
And you played the father, didn't you?
I played the father, Richard Taylor.
Richard
Richard Taylor. He's now an OB MBA. Yeah, that was very... I just treated that so differently because I knew the story. And also, at the time, you know, Damilola was sadly losing his life. I was in the UK and understood that that could have been me. When I lived in Bounds Green, I had a run-in with a few local boys, and it could have gone either way. My life at times was in danger. In fact, 16 of them came to the house I was in and went and sat in the lounge at the back while I was in the room. And after a few hours of sitting in there, I thought, well, I have to go. So I stepped outside, and I remember looking through the room and seeing him and thought, well, that could be different. So when you hear about Damilola and what happened to him, you go, you know, us Africans going over to the West, for whatever reason we go there for, you know, you can't dream of it as this Hollywood, you know. Anything can happen, including those things. And I just felt a sense of responsibility to tell this story. Like, the moment I saw it, I was 34, 5 at the time, and Richard Taylor was 57. That's what I was supposed to play. Yeah. So it just wasn't right. I was the wrong age. But I looked at it and I thought, this is my responsibility. If anybody should play this role, it's me. I felt a very spiritual ease with that. And as I was auditioning the process, I just felt this calm, that this was, you know, my job to do. And when I finally met Richard Taylor, and I met him a lot since, actually. I went to a 20th anniversary screening of the film when I was in England recently. And yeah, you know, there's always going to be that bond, that respect, that level of understanding. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But here, one wonders, these characters you play, I imagine, sort of, I wonder whether they come back to change the personality. Yeah. I imagine that sometimes, you know, especially after you've had a long shoot for maybe months, I hope you didn't go home still being that character.
I don't think a few of them would be welcome in my house, to be honest.
So what is it? Do you find the relationship between these characters you play and your own personality grows? It will be an interesting...
That's a very good question. It's one of the prices you pay, especially the way I like to work. I want to really... I was saying to my wife the other day that I can feel the character knocking on the door. This is even before I play. I can feel the character going, hello, you know. And if you treat them well, they're real human beings. But at the end of the day, you also have to use yourself. So as you do, you will undoubtedly grow. Undoubtedly. You know, some characters I've played have had a massive impact on me. The most recent character I played, Wolf, by the end, he's someone who doesn't explain himself much. He just does what he wants to.
Professor Wolf.
Professor Wolf Kinte.
I like that Kinte.
Yeah, I was like,
why Kinte? How did it come about? Was it a suggestion?
Yes, it was a suggestion
Okay.
from me. So, you know, initially the name they had was Cormac Wolf, and he was supposed to be a 50-year-old Irishman. But then they decided they were going to cast a black actor. So I said, well, here I am. I'm in Gambia. What do you want to do about this? And so they said, well, why don't we change the name? And I said, Wolf, I like. I like that. And it can be his first name. You know, who knows? An Irish priest might have given him that name. But the second name we can look at. And I sent them Kinte, Jane, I think Jalo. I can't remember. A few names. And said, pick one. And they picked Kinte.
I wonder if Kinte was a nod to Kunta Kinte.
100%. It's like, we know that name. Exactly.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So, let's widen it a little bit. We are told that, well, I tend to get this when I read Wole Soyinka about Africa, drama, and that sort of thing. What does drama do for the audience, I wonder?
Wow. I think drama is it's a very important part of society, humanity. So important. I mean, there's a reason we all consume it so much anyway. It doesn't necessarily need to do anything more than entertain. And I think that should ultimately be the aim. Like, if you're trying to teach an audience,
That's it. The didacticism. that comes
then you've
into
got a massive problem for me. And in fact, a lot of the drama I've seen in Gambia so far goes down that path. It's partly because of pressure from NGOs who are funding it. They have a message, and they want a message in the drama. People pick up on that very quickly. It's like a sales tactic. So ultimately, drama, you're just trying to reveal humanity. If people are engaged and they're entertained, great, you've done your job. If they happen to be educated as well, or something shifts in them, then that's also important, you know. I saw this German film, The Lives of Others, about a Stasi officer, you know, these people who were controlling East Germany, who's sent to spy on this couple. But by the end, he actually saves their life. Watching that film, watching his transformation, that human change, it had a profound impact on me. My sister at the time didn't used to watch movies like that. I made her come to my house, sit down and watch that movie. And she stopped it halfway to start crying. And I thought, okay, this is the power that you can have. I think, you know, you can look at Africa, like I've come home, and there's a part of me that I don't want Africa to ever become the West, ever. For me, that's depression, suicide, all that cement, high buildings. For me, that's not development. I know some people want tons of that, but I do not. I want to keep that spirit and that soul and that, you know, sort of happiness that we have. So I've come back to Africa. One way you can go about trying to make sure that Africa develops, but in a way that reflects Africa, is to sort of get into politics. But I think it's a mess. I think it's very difficult to even keep it anything other than that. But if you look at like drama, it's just so much freedom there to express yourself. Even in a horror film or a cartoon, you can have a theme or something. Again, not to educate, just to say, here's something that we can discuss today here, or look at and put it out there. And then hopefully it has an impact on people. I feel that Africa, if we have an opportunity to write our own stories, get our own narrative out there, that alone can start to celebrate us enough, you know, and show us as humanity, rather than trying to adapt to anything else.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it seems education is not the main purpose.
No.
But again,
It's in there.
it's
You
in
never
there.
know who it'll hook.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially when you said about, you know, people who are really concerned when they come back, they tend to go into politics.
Yeah.
That's it. But for me here, you sort of, I just remembered Senghor sort of what I call Senghor's model, for instance. He seemed to he spent more on art.
Yeah.
It seems that is the model of decolonizing the mind, as it were.
Thank you.
Perhaps that's really the direct line,
That's
if one
it.
can call it that.
That's
to,
it.
To that.
And I really feel that. And you know, that pull is there every time, obviously. There's little things like, you know, anything that you want to change or you want to see improve or so on and so forth. But I'm still trying to stick to the line of just saying, well, I'm a storyteller and I'm going to tell stories. And then we'll see what comes from those stories. You know, when you go back to Lebo and Lupin, at the end of the day, all of those stories in the drama between the wolf, Nyomwarabuki, and the wolf and the rabbit, what are you seeing? You know, you get something from it. Even the story of Macbeth, ultimately it's about ambition. He overreached, and in overreaching, it cost him his life. You know, that's little things like that. They can be in there if you look at it, if you look for it. If not, it's just an entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
A parable, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me test something. What's your favorite film and why? You now not acting but watching a film.
You're limiting me to one film.
Well, yes. So you deal with it how maybe
Wow,
you have
that's
many
tough.
favorites.
I have so
Granted,
many favorites
granted, yes.
in different sorts of
And,
ways.
and why? What draws you to it?
Immediately, whenever anybody asks me my favorite film, two films come to my head. One is Shawshank Redemption. I think in the title, Redemption. Someone who's falsely accused, who then finds a way out, like under duress, in a jail with all that stress and pressure. Just watching him get through. In a way, life can be like that. Very compressing. And, you know, for better or worse, I've had to hustle to get to where I've got to. I've not just swum up, you know, and been let onto the boat. I've really had to try. 10 years of not even doing much TV. I've been doing this for 17 years. Only recently that my star has started to rise even, you know. And the other one is Old Boy. It's a Korean film. And I just love everything from Korea now. I don't know what's going on with me. It's a Korean film. And I think it's partly because it's from another place. It isn't a Western film. So there's a part of me that's like, when I got sent it was just on a drive. I didn't expect it. I put it on. But it's the audacity. The film, the story is very extreme. Very, very extreme. A revenge story that's so deep and long. I don't know why. But it's one I recommend. If anybody has the stomach, that's worth watching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we come back here. Have you ever shot a movie in this country?
No, I have not. And in fact, I was looking at that image over there asking you if it's the Farafenye Bridge. You know, the reason I recognize it is about maybe 5-6 weeks ago, I drove up to Janjambure to watch a film being made in the Gambia. Jaju, the director, Usman Jaju, was here shooting a film up country. And it's just amazing to see how many there's no difference really. The only difference is that we need more funding and we need more infrastructure. That's it. But apart from that, in terms of vision, talent, I saw enough for me to go like, right. And I guess we need people as well, but that's part of it, part of the training and all that stuff that needs to happen, just to get more people interested in it. I haven't yet made a film in Gambia, but I've written a film. Yes, so I've written a screenplay. I've taken that original story of Macbeth and I've adapted it to a currently unrepresented African country, but is 65% Wolof, maybe even 75% Wolof, bit of English and a tiny bit of Arabic, you know, from the Islam. That film I'm hoping to make. I just have to raise a lot of money to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you make of this phenomenon, this change, really? For instance, when we were younger, maybe in Banjul, there was a lot of cinema.
Loads.
People went to films
Banjul cinema, yeah.
and suddenly now it's all gone.
It's gone.
Essentially, all gone.
It's gone. It is gone. It's sad. For me, that's like what I do when I'm in England. I go to the cinema all the time and binge movies. I watch. I love it. It's a shame that it's gone in Gambia. I mean, there's a few that's opened up, but they haven't yet got to that point where they've got a lot of people going there. I think it's just no longer part of the culture. We have our little mobile phones. We can watch Netflix on it, YouTube, you know, download a movie, do whatever you want. So why go and spend, I don't know, $300, $400 to watch a movie?
That's it, but this is interesting because in the West as well, you do have people there, mobile phones, they have all of these things.
Yeah.
Yet they still go to the cinema.
Far less than used to. So the curve went like this, and now sadly it's gone down. So there's less people going to the cinema. That's just the truth in general. And that's why you see massive blockbusters or really tiny movies. That middle ground has disappeared a bit in the last few years, which is a shame, because that middle ground is where all those films that aren't for education but may have a purpose were being made. You know, the Shawshank Redemptions, all those films. And now no one would make the Shawshank Redemption because it's not 200 million and it's not 5 million. You know, yeah.
So
It's a shame, really, but on some level, you got to roll with it. I mean, if I ever had the means or enough people interested, then definitely I would consider opening up a cinema in the Gambia. But it would have to be part of a bigger chain of cinemas that opens in Senegal, in Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria, wherever you can. You want to get as much of that happening. Otherwise, it might not be sustainable as a business model, to be honest.
yes.
You need enough people going for it to sustain itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You've been back now, what, 3 years?
2.5.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Why? What are you doing now?
Well, the simple answer is, you know, it's just the life in Gambia is so, you know, good for the heart, good for my mind. You know, I've just got much better mental health and happiness here, and I can see it in my wife and kids. My parents are happy as well that I'm here. So that's the biggest reason. But then since being here, and seeing the number of people involved in the film industry who are already doing fantastic work, you know, actors, directors, producers, cinematographers, I've now got the bug. So in fact, I've got a little list of people that I'm going to be trying to meet to discuss about not necessarily setting up a company, but what I want them to just be aware of the fact that the film industry is an industry. You know, we could hire thousands of Gambians in the film industry here. It generates a lot of income. There's so many streaming platforms, Netflix, Amazon, Disney, all these people. There's the whole continent to tell stories on. And you don't have to limit yourself to Gambian stories. Tell whatever stories you want. Tell English stories if you want from Gambia. It's not like English people would wait to tell Gambian stories. They would just do it. So you go ahead. One thing I am looking for is more screenwriters. So if anybody's watching who's a screenwriter, find a way to find me. Because that's where it all begins.
Yes.
But that's what I want to do now. I want to start focusing my attentions on African cinema, Gambian cinema, African cinema, looking at those channels, making sure it's international, selling it abroad. I want, you know, people in Korea to feel the same way I feel about their films. But Gambian films, Ghanaian films, Sierra Leonean films, I want them to see it. Of course, this is my base, so my focus is Gambia, 100%. And then if we get bigger and we establish a big enough, I mean, I don't think we're ever going to become Nigeria. They've got 200 million people. But if you get to the point where the level of expertise here is just fantastic enough, then we can make films anywhere, about anything. And that's the ultimate goal.
Oh, absolutely. I'm to some extent scandalized by the fact that most of what we consume, be it on TV, we don't have a soap opera, for instance. You have the South American telenovelas or movies from Nigeria. You know, our cousins, you know, cool. But I want to see Gambian stuff.
Of course.
So you see, it seems as if we've got nothing reflecting back.
That's true.
As it were, which sort of helps, particularly when you are, right now, we say politically we are in a transition.
Of course.
But there's really nothing reflecting back.
You don't get to see into the culture, you don't get to see into the people, all those things that we worry about and have stories about, you don't get to see it. You get to see it reflected from other places in the world. In the end, it's a human experience, I understand that, but there's some little details that would be quite nice to see here. I think it will happen. It's just when I met with the local Gambian film industry, the big realization I made was that there just wasn't that view of films as something that can generate income. It has to be a viable business. It can't just be we're making films to make people happy, you know. Maybe QTV can start putting up some funds for some local telenovelas to be made. The talent is here. I'm here, so, you know, I'm sitting and ready.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're listening.
Good.
You know, so that's it. I wonder now. Yes, one can call you a celebrity. We have to say that. But have you noticed any recognizable change?
In
Since
what?
in being celebrating the personality, how people deal with you?
Yeah, people deal with, some people
Anything?
deal with you differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's normal for the road. At first it can be a bit disconcerting because you want to be treated exactly the same as you were, but you realize some people just can't. And at the end of the day, that's fine. I smile and wave and then carry on with my life. But generally, I just hold on to myself. I mean, you know, I've got kids. They remind you very quickly that you are just there to serve them. So, you know, I let go of it very quickly. I've never really bought into it too much. It's never been the thing that's interested me most. Yeah, of course, at the end of the day, we all want a bit of recognition for our efforts. Like even at work, you want if a colleague turns around and says, "Hey, well done on your job," that's a nice feeling. So I love that feeling. I'll never go away from it. But it's the celebrity and what that means that it's a bit like, ugh, come on. You know, let's just leave that over there and carry on with the work. You know?
Carry on with the work,
Yeah.
absolutely. But with all this experience, I think it might be quite interesting for some of our younger viewers out there. If you could meet your younger self,
Yeah.
what advice would you give that? Given what you know now.
Ha!
One or two.
I mean, in spite of everything that's happened, and knock on wood, you know, alhamdulillah, it's going well. So far, we'll see. I would tell him it's going to be okay. Even if it hadn't worked out like this, I think as young people, sometimes there's this feeling that it's just all not going to work out. You're like, look, just calm down step by step. You have to live, you know. But advice...
And particularly if you put it in the context of, there is this virus, well, I call it virus,
Yeah.
the backway phenomenon,
Yeah.
the crisis of habitation, if one can call it that.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody just wants to leave. It's a very interesting phenomenon, and perhaps the sort of stuff that really perhaps only art can tackle. I tend to hear people telling you, oh, the economy is this, the economy that. One understands, but I also tend to think that there's a psychological stuff that we need to tackle, and perhaps art and stuff like that's the best place to really tackle these things, one wonders.
Well, by chance, one of my, I say cousin, he's actually more of an uncle, he's just younger than me, you know, Gambian style. He went the back way and was one of the lucky ones. He survived, you know, managed to naturalize, and he finally came back after a few years. And I interviewed him. And I have from him and 2 or 3 other people up to 40 hours of recorded interviews of that journey. And it's hellish. I mean, when I hear it, I'm like, wow. There's a part of me that has to acknowledge, I understand the desire to travel. Like, I love traveling. I want to go and see different places. I've been lucky. I've ended up as far as Mexico, as far as Japan. I just want to see. There's a part of me that understands that and respects it. And I think as the Gambian youth need to be given an opportunity to do that. However, it would be better if with the help of government, with the help of organizations, we can come up with a more safe, curated way to do it with limitations, you know. I do also understand that economic migration, that desire. But one thing he said to me, my cousin uncle, he said to me, look, when I got there, I realized how much hard work it was still going to take for me to succeed. And he said, I could have done that hard work here. I think that made me go, okay. Now, look, some people are unfortunate. Like, they can be in an unfortunate situation where even hard work is not enough. They need support. But that idea of just being able to see that, look, I spent so much time in the West, I've run home. I could, at this point where my star is beginning to click, have stayed there and really capitalized. I could have even gone further to America to really capitalize. I've decided to come home for my mental health, for my own happiness. And I think what I'm saying to people is, on some level, remember that no matter where you are in the world, maybe that's not completely true. Some places do have more opportunities, granted. There is a mindset that you can have that can really make a difference for you. And it's very simple. Take 100% responsibility for your life. 100%. Here in Africa, we're communal, so we depend on each other a lot. Having said that, it is still up to you to make those decisions, to talk to the right people, where you're sat there today frustrated thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I know someone who's graduated, they don't even have a job right now. It's been a year. And I understand that feeling. When I finished Imperial, I didn't have a job. England wasn't full of opportunities. They had an economic downturn in 2001. So I understand that feeling of loss. I'm trying to encourage whoever it is, wherever you are, to really consider all your options. Ask yourself lots of questions. Do that self-reflection and say, what have I done with my life today? What are 5 things I could do today? Small things, just today, to slightly improve my life. Maybe I can go have a conversation with this person about an opportunity. Maybe I can try this, maybe I can try that. I think if we had more people with that mindset in Gambia who want, again, I don't want to dismiss their desire to go and see the world and face it. Absolutely. You know, they have a lot of courage, more courage than me. Is to just, if we had more people like that in Gambia, I think we would not need government.
I keep saying that if I had the power, I will privatize the whole of government.
Yeah. I just don't think we need it because
Absolutely.
it's that get up, that
Absolutely.
desire. But you do need a critical mass. You need enough people all thinking like that with each other to create what people call society or a country or whatever, that desire to build, you know. Right now we're doing it a bit in little groups, little silos, little compounds, just us, you know.
And it seems, well, I have this theory, I tell people that perhaps we will make significant strides if we were to be flooded by the diaspora. I get so frustrated, if you know what I mean. Perhaps we'd come with a different attitude. We know what our problems are, especially towards work, you know, the way we do things. When I'm giving you service, it's as if I'm giving you doing you a favor.
Right.
So when we have this flood, as it were, of people, then might help to change.
I mean, I would love to see a massive flood of the diaspora. In fact, anyone in any diaspora that I speak to in England, I'm like, why are you there? Go home or come home if you're Gambian, you know. Come and let's be part of it. Even encouraging people who aren't part of the diaspora to move back, you know.
Absolutely.
No, you're right. There is a hope somewhere that something will shift. And I think the diaspora could make it shift. Look, filming, if people knew the hours that I do, you know, some days I'm waking up at 4 a.m. There was a day in England I'm waking up at 3:45 a.m. to be picked up at 4:15. Because at that time there's no transport. You get picked up. Anyway, I get picked up anyway. 4:15. You get to work. You're in your makeup and this and the other. You get dressed, get in your costume, just so that the DOP can catch the sunrise. Then after you catch the sunrise, then they give you breakfast. And after breakfast, you are now working a full day. And I don't mean 5 p.m. I don't mean 5 p.m. by full day. Finishing at 5 p.m. is a joke in the film industry. 7, 8, sometimes I'm filming till 2 a.m. But doing a 15-hour day is normal. On Badlands, I was doing 18-hour days. You know, so at the end of the day, there's no shortcut. Sometimes you do have to do a lot more work and be willing to do it. That was a real shock to me. The amount of effort that anything takes. And by the end of the job, I am finished, done. I come home empty shell. All I want to do is sleep, you know, be looked after, be pampered. And then it's taking me 2.5 months to have this energy to come and sit and talk to you.
Absolutely.
You know?
Imagine that. So now, up at somewhere, now you're thinking of writing a play. And perhaps even, would you direct in this country, perhaps?
Yes, 100%. It's all just a matter of time. Ideas are constantly popping around, and I'm meeting a few people who have ideas of their own. What we need is financing. But in order to finance it, people need to see that there's going to be a return. The return is where I will come in. I will show them the road to market. That's my plan. Just to say to them, listen, this is how the film markets work. This is how you sell a film. We have an English producer living in this country who goes out and makes movies around the world, you know. So we already have a lot of what we need, just enough people to get to a level to really like understand it and see that market. That's where we need to get.
Absolutely.
Hopefully not a lot of years.
Yes. Yes, we all, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, both.
We've come to the very end, but just one quickly.
Yes.
Is there any question that you wish that somebody had asked but never did. Just as a final.
Wow. Wow, not really, no.
All right.
I'm struggling here to think of something that I've been desperate to say. I'm so talkative anyway, so.
Yes, I mean,
I
you've
usually
done
get all of
so
it.
many interviews. I mean, you've done so
Exactly.
many interviews, so you've done them all. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thanks for having me,
Sise. It
Mr.
was
Boyd.
really
I
a pleasure.
appreciate
Fantastic talking to you. Yes. And thank you very much, viewers. Until next time, I'm Mahmoud Mbooj. Goodbye.